Hello, thanks for joining me. I decided to have a little different venue for this video. It's a little bit fallish here today where I live, and so I was just sitting outside on my balcony. It is kind of a busy street, and there's also an exercise class going on eight stories below us. So you might be able to hear some of the street noise and whatnot, but hopefully it's not too distracting. What I thought I'd do is just touch base and do the A to Z Bookish Survey Book Tag. I got tagged for this activity by CR Flames fan a few days ago, or maybe even as much as a week ago, and I just haven't had a chance to do the tag because there's quite a lot of questions. There's actually 26 of them. We have to run through the alphabet, so there's really a lot to it. So I'm finally getting around to doing the tag. So I just wanted to get my responses out. I think the tag was originally done by Perpetual page turner, and like I said, I was tagged by CR Flames fan. I'll put links to her channel in the details below. So let's get to the tag. It's kind of an A to Z thing. A is for author you've read the most. I have read the most of Charles Dickens. I no longer own any Charles Dickens, but I've read 14 of his novels. I think he wrote 15, so I haven't read Hard Times. Is the only one that I'm missing. I decided to, about 10 years ago, I bought a set, like a whole set of his collected works in multiple volumes off of eBay, and I read through them all like back to back. And it was really a lot of fun to do. I found that it was really changing my English. I wasn't speaking with a British accent, but what it was I was suddenly using words like "oh dear, how vexing," using Victorian language. But it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed his work. I wouldn't consider him one of my all-time favorite authors, but I am glad that I read through all of his novels and got them read because I really enjoyed them all. Each one of them are just a wealth of characters and a ton of fun. But okay, best sequel ever. I'm going to go with, I do have this book still because I read this electronically. The Flux. This is by Ferret Steinmetz. The first one of this series is called Flex. And this is a urban fantasy series where people have mancy, they have a magic. It's our own world that we recognize, except people have magic, and their magic develops around their obsessions. And so our main character, his name is Paul, and he's really into bureaucracy. So his magic revolves around bureaucracy. And this second one of this series, The Flux, all three of them were just awesome, but I really snatched up the second one right away whenever I could, and the third one when it came available, and read all three of those. So C, currently reading. Let's move to the next question. Currently reading. I am currently reading the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. So should be finished with that soon, and I'll have a book chat coming up. D, drink of choice while reading. Most of the time, a lot of times, and especially in the late afternoon, that's when I get a little reading in before bed, also before bed, but in the late afternoon, I'll typically make some herbal tea. Lately, I've been really into rose hips, so that's currently my drink of choice when I'm reading. Ebook. Number 5, E is for ebook or physical book, and I definitely read mostly with ebooks. I have remarked on several videos why that's the case, and I will continue to do that for now. I would like to eventually get a physical book collection again of some kind, but for now, for most of my just average day-to-day reading, I do that electronically. F is for fictional character. Fictional character you would probably have dated in high school. You know what? I gave this a lot of thought, and I cannot imagine any fictional characters that I connect with wanting to date me in high school, or me wanting to date them at that point, because my high school days were so long ago that I can't even remember that world hardly. So I'm going to pass on the fictional character that I would have dated in high school. G is for glad. Glad you gave this book a chance. Okay, so that for me is definitely Dead Boys by Gabriel Squalia. Yeah, I would have probably never picked this up. For one, the title and cover kind of creeps me out, and I'm not a real big horror person. This is a fantasy. It takes place in the underworld, and it was just so good. So I'm so glad that I went ahead and gave that a shot. Gabriel Scalia has since written a different book called Viscera, which I also read and loved. It was another kind of quest book. I've done chats on both these books. I'll link to them below. All right, H is for Hidden Gem. Hidden Gem book. I didn't bring it with me outside, but it's Thoughts from the Dark Corner. It's by J.P. Pereira. I've done a chat on that. It's a collection of essays. And that is just a gem. That was just a treasure. It's another one I wasn't really expecting. Knowing really unknown author, and I didn't know what to expect, and I picked it up and read it, and it was just such a little treasure, such a little gem of essays. So I is for important. I is for important. An important moment in your reading life. You know, after my grandfather died, I was in high school, and I stayed with my grandmother quite a bit. I basically lived with her for a couple of years, really. And every night she, at about 9 or so, she expected us to shut everything down and read for like an hour and a half, an hour. And, she'd bring me, make sure I had a lamp and stuff. And so that really developed a nightly habit of reading for me that I still do to this day. I generally knock off whatever I'm doing, like 9 or so, 9:30, and go read for an hour and a half. So I got to thank my grandmother for that. All right, J just finished. I just finished a couple of days ago, and I have done a chat on this. It is a biography of Piotr Tchaikovsky by Philip Ross Bullock, and I enjoyed it very much. So I'll link to the chat below. J.K. Kinds of books you won't read. I would read almost anything, unless it's something to do with probably hunting. If it's a hunting book or a fishing book, I won't read it because I have no connection to that and no desire to read anything about that. So I guess that's what I'd say, hunting and fishing books. All right, L. L is for the longest book you've read. The longest book I've read is actually the Bible. It's not something I picked up myself to read. It was sort of drilled into me as a kid. But I did read through it. It took me over the course of, I think, a year. We did it. I was in a class, Bible class. The Bible, the Holy Bible. M is for major book hangover. And why? I thought about this one, and The Wandering Earth by Lucy Shin has really stuck with me, and stuck with me after I read it. Such a moving story. This is a novella, a Chinese science fiction writer. Such a beautiful, beautiful story. Such lingering thoughts after that, reading this novella. It didn't really leave me with a hangover, just, a hangover. It didn't give me a headache or anything, but it did stay with me long after I had finished reading it. N is the number of bookcases you own. So there's 7 one-shelf bookcases in the apartment in there. Not all the books are mine. And then I also have my electronic shelf, which has multiple books on it as well. So it's kind of a virtual shelf. O is for one book you've read multiple times. So I've read several books several times. I've read The Red and the Black by Stendhal several times. I've read On Human Bondage several times. Human Bondage by Somerset Maugham. I've read Hardboiled Wonderland and the End of the World by Haruki Murakami a couple times. So P is for the preferred place to read. P is for preferred. That would be reading in bed. I prefer to read. That's my comfiest place when I go in there at like 9:30 or whatever to read for an hour and a half. To me, that's comfort. Q is for a quote that inspired you from a book that you've read. I'm going to use this quote from the Tchaikovsky biography that I just finished. Tchaikovsky says, "Inspiration is a guest that does not willingly visit the lazy." Tchaikovsky. That was inspirational, can't be lazy, right? All right. Quote, R is for reading regret. I really regret that I didn't track my reading earlier in life. I had a professor, a history professor, when I was getting my bachelor's degree, who really encouraged us all, in historiography to track our reading and stuff, and I sort of, in the folly of youth, ignored him. And it was not until the last couple of years that I've really tracked my reading the way it should be. So that's my regret, that I missed many, many years of not tracking my reading properly. S is for a series that you started and need to finish all of the books, and all the books are out. All right, so that's the Remembrance of Earth's Past series. This is also by Lucy Shin that I just mentioned about the Wandering Earth. I have read the first of this series called The Three-Body Problem. I did a chat on this. I'll link to it below. The other two books of this trilogy are out. This one, Hugo. The other two books are out, have been out forever. I just haven't read them yet. But when I do finish my my must-read list for this year, I do have those on tap, both of those, to finish out the series. T is for 3 of your all-time favorite books. I don't own them anymore, but 3 of my all-time favorite books are the Lord of the Rings trilogy: The Fellowship of the Ring, The Dark Tower, Two Towers, and The Return of the King. U is for unapologetic fanboy for. I am an unapologetic fanboy for a couple of works that sometimes cause eye rolls by people I know. One is Middlemarch by George Eliot, and the others are the Jane Austen novels like Emma, I love, and Pride and Prejudice, I love. I don't care. I love them, and I don't care who knows it. V is for very excited for this release. I didn't download a picture of it, but I have pre-purchased Provenance by Anne Leckie, which is a science fiction work that comes out in October, so I'm looking forward to that. And I'm also very much looking forward to Neil Griffith's book, which I've also pre-ordered. Neil Griffith has a BookTube channel, so looking forward to that book too this fall. W is for worst bookish habit. I don't typically DNF books. If I start a book, I finish it, even if I hate it, and even if I'm not getting much from it. I go ahead and see it through to the end, and I do burn some time doing that, but it's just my personality. I just can't not finish it. So I typically finish everything that I start. X marks the spot. Go to the 27th book from the upper top left shelf. So for this little exercise, I'm going to cheat a bit, and I'm going to use my electronic shelf, and the 27th book down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. The 27th book down is, let me get to the cover. It's a good one. Letters from a Stoic by Seneca, one of my favorite books, and something that I have drawn a lot of information for, like life lessons, like living, applying, sort of like practical knowledge to apply to my own life. So Letters from a Stoic is my 27th currently in my shelf on my ebook, in my ebooks. Y is for your latest book purchase. I checked it out on Amazon. My latest book purchase is an electronic work. What I did when I was getting down to my last 10 or so on my must-read list, I just bought them all in bulk. And the last one that was purchased was this one, The Paper Menagerie and Other Stories by Ken Liu. I've actually already read this and done a chat on it. This is a science fiction short story collection, which I loved. Z is for Z Snatchers, the latest book that kept you up way late. I actually meant to bring this book out on the patio so I could show it, or out on the balcony, but it's Homo Deus by Yuval Noah Harari. I read this in the summer, and this is sort of his take on Homo sapiens and where we're headed as a species in the future with the rapid technological change, etc., that we are undergoing at the moment. So that's my A to Z bookish answers tag for the bookish tag. Who to tag? I don't know who to tag. I'm so behind on my videos. I don't know who's done this and who hasn't. Richardson Reads, if you haven't done it, I'd love to hear your answers. Anyone who's interested in doing it and hasn't done it, I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. If you do end up doing it, go ahead and leave me a comment so that I can catch your video. Okay. I'll close with that. Until next time, take care.